Hello there, and welcome to the Film Music House at Sundance Film Festival. My name is Andrew Kropp from White Bear PR, and today I am pleased to be speaking with composer T. Griffin, also known as Todd, as well as the directors of the movie Cusp, Parker Hill and Isabel Bethencourt. Hello, everyone.
Howdy,
Hi.
howdy.
How's everyone doing today?
Pretty well, can't complain.
My travel to Sundance was very smooth this year.
Not a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much from my my bedroom to my office. And
Yeah.
it's a nice change this year, but I do miss being on the on Main Street and everything. So let's discuss your movie Cusp. Can you tell us a little bit about it and how the project came about, and Todd, how you came to work on the project with Parker and Isabel?
Why don't you guys first?
Oh, sure.
Sure. Well, Cusp is about three teenage girls from a small town in Texas. And over the course of the summer, the film follows them as they go to bonfire parties and, late night McDonald's runs. And it kind of just watches them grow up and deal with some of the darker realities of being a teenage girl. Izzy can, I guess, talk about how the project happened, I guess, but if you want.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, we met these girls randomly at a gas station while Parker and I were on a road trip. And it's we became fast friends and got to talking about what it was like to be them and be where they're from. And that, oh, sorry, hold on.
Oh, wait, do you have to step out, actually? If you need to, I'm happy to keep saying how we met them.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. The realities of recording on Zoom,
Right.
virtual. All right.
We met them by chance at a gas station, fell in love with them. They were like an electric group of just American teens in the summer. And we just started to hang out with them and decided to make a short documentary about them. And that kind of got expanded into a feature. And now we're here at Sundance with Todd.
Yeah, and
in terms of my involvement, I don't know how did you guys? I mean, their producer Zach reached out to me, I don't know, in October or something, and showed me 20 minutes, and I was just completely blown away. And I said, whatever, I don't know what this is, but whatever it is, I want to be part of it. So I don't know actually how you guys heard of me.
Well, so in late September, early October, we were in the middle of a new rough cut, and the film deals with a lot of darker elements, but it kind of worked out in the edit that we figured out that we really wanted to figure out how to bring in some humor and some levity into just the girls and their personality. And that's when we discovered the Boy State soundtrack, and that made it into a cut. And then we started looking up Todd's work, and we saw that he did One of Us, which is a documentary that we really love, directed by Heidi Ewing and Rachel Grady. And we kind of told Zach, we would love to talk to Todd, and here we are.
very
Sweet. That's funny because I would say that this is probably the most un-Boys State movie you could possibly make.
It took us a while to have that be true. I mean, well, edit wise, yes, obviously, definitely, but it was yeah, the cue in the intro sparked the inspiration for the intro, so I'm grateful we stumbled upon it.
Yeah.
Very nice. And you mentioned that you wanted more of the music to not only service this kind of dramatic peek into these girls' lives, but you also wanted it to provide a sort of levity with some of these more mature themes that they're having to deal with in that. Was that kind of the direction you went with from the get-go, or did that evolve from somewhere?
I think from our end, at least, it definitely, one of the funniest things about teenage girls is that they are simultaneously handling all of these hilarious moments with these darker moments. So I think from the jump, that was something that we were interested in playing with, but then we got to evolve it a lot more than we thought we could with Todd, which was fun.
Yeah, and I would say that, you know, one of the things that really appealed to me just about the movie, even in just the you know, small part I had seen originally, was you could tell immediately how comfortable these people were with the camera, with Parker and Isabel. You know, it really felt like you were entering a world that was not being performed. You know what I mean? Like some documentaries, they're it's sort of performative, and that's also great. And I think, well, all of life is to some extent, but this, it really felt like time was just passing, and their humor really came through in that. I mean, the girls in the film are really funny, and that came through, and I could tell that was, you know, what was going to sort of pull us through, you know, some dark stuff in the movie. And I would say in terms of the music, that's the last thing that we got was the funniest stuff, and that's the hardest stuff to get. It was really the music that felt like it was really part of their world, and felt very sort of true first, and then all of the comic stuff we were doing to the last day, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Can the three of you tell me a little bit about your creative process working together and collaborating together?
Sure. I mean, first off, Todd is a champion. This movie, like, it was, I mean, working with him was such an incredible dream. I mean, first of all, he's like incredibly intuitive. And, you know, even just some of our early conversations, like he was able to pick up on the certain elements about the way the story's told, and like the perspective, you know, being a film, a verite doc is very told, it's told within their world, but there definitely are moments where the perspective is, you know, it's something that we notice as filmmakers that the girls might not notice. And how do we show that without abandoning their, you know, point of view? And working with Todd was just so incredible to be able to speak in just in terms of like on an intellectual level, emotionally in the film, as well as then, you know, throughout the process into more specific or technical things. But he is a champion because we tried a lot of things for a lot of cues. And, you know, in some ways there was the music is kind of sparse in the film, but not really. But it was one of those, like, we were kind of towards certain parts of the process, we were trying to find the movie's sound, and we thought we would find it from this cue. So we'd work on that. And then we thought we'd like try other cues in that family. And Todd was so incredible because there, you know, there were so many moments, but like two really stand out as like Izzy and I, we were like, you know, we didn't really know what we wanted. And these two cues, like we had tried a bunch of things on it. And then out of nowhere, it's like you're nowhere. And then Todd sends you another track and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the movie's sound. This is cool. This is sweet. It's tender. It's like exciting. It was just, I'm talking about the meet cute and the ending, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so incredible to just think about how much we all tried in not a long time and got somewhere that feels like, of course, this is how it sounds, you know, like it feels so connected. And I'm thrilled. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's the ideal, right? I mean, you got trying to find what is the sound that feels like it always had to be there. And I would say that, yes, we tried. I mean, there's not that much music in the movie, but I would say that the sparser it is, actually the harder it is to score, because the music has so much impact when it arrives. And both Parker and Isabel, I think, were really amazing at trying to stay focused on what the music needed to do and say in the moment, as opposed to sort of what instrument it should be, or even how fast or slow it should be. And that's one of the things that I really try to discipline myself to do, is to always stay focused on what we're doing, what the music does. Because I think everything else is sort of easy, like what instruments it should be, what style it should be, how much there should be. All of that is kind of like that. You can only answer those questions by knowing what you're doing. what the meaning of the music is in the movie. And I loved working on it, and I loved the fact that we tried 40 different things for a lot of these cues, because I feel like, especially for documentary makers, it's very sort of natural that you have all this material and you kind of have to get it out on the table in front of yourself, and just some things will kind of call out to you. And so I kind of feel like my job is to just get those things out on the table and find out what's calling, to the directors, which also helps, I think, make it feel like music that only would be in a movie that these two were directing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had the privilege of actually watching Cusp, and brilliant work. It was such a pleasure and a treat to be able to see that. And I love how you mentioned that sometimes the silence in between the musical cues make the music that much more impactful. And I'm just wondering, and Todd and maybe Isabel, if you want to jump in on this, is it hard to figure out where those moments should go, like when to be silent, when to have music?
Yeah, I mean, I think early on, we definitely had a couple versions where we had a lot more music, and especially early on in our edit with some temp music as well. And then when we brought it to Todd, we kind of really figured out where the moments were that we needed that emotional push. And that, I think, really helps make the cues that we do have land a lot harder than they would if there was music the whole time. And it was really cool to kind of get to pick out these very specific moments and think about the emotions behind them, and kind of develop a sound within the very essential emotional beats of the characters.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that it really does to have the music be so deliberately placed is you really have to be able to articulate why it's there, like why it's there, and then why does it start here? Why does it end here? And why does it change on this shot? And if the emotion's changing on that shot, well, maybe it should change a little before the shot or a little after the shot. All of these, decisions, which are intuitive, but also I think you can articulate reasons for that, then sort of populates your motivation for the rest of the movie. And so, then you begin to get something that really feels integrated, and not just music as decoration, or music as, remind everyone they're watching a movie, or whatever, different motivations you can have for putting music in a movie. And I would also say that it really helped me to sort of learn from Parker and Isabel what the texture of the world was, because they were there and I wasn't there. And I think that you can come at a lot of this stuff with sort of preconceptions of what the feeling is of this world, right? And a lot of that comes from media, comes from other movies you've seen, or other, things that you've experienced that are outside of the real world that they were in. And I think one of the beautiful things about a movie like this is it's trying to express, a real reality, even if that reality is hard to sit with. And they were very, they disciplined me a lot to not to let the audience out of the room before it was time. There were a few specific cues where I felt really strongly that we needed to sort of give the characters like a little hug, something that would sort of, there's a lot of tense and difficult situations, right, that we're in. And I felt the need as a audience member, as a viewer, to release some of that tension. And they were very clear. It's like the characters live in that. We have to live in that for this scene. And I think it makes it so much more powerful a movie.
Yeah, I would say so as well, because those moments, you feel them, you're in it, you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
Were there any sort of other unique challenges that came about from this score? Did you have to compose and record in COVID or anything else like that?
I have yes. Everything happens in COVID. I've actually been. I started renovating my studio, rebuilding my studio, which I've been in for 20 years. In November of last year, so I had taken it to the studs about the time that COVID shut everything down. And so the project was on hold for 5 months and I'm still out of my studio. So I've been recording in a nomadic way. I've done many projects in different small studios, which has been actually kind of fun. And for this one, it was all analog, but all electronic, all like within this very small world of, different weird electronic instruments and stuff, and one guitar and my son's recorder were basically all the instruments that I use. So this one actually was very natural for it to be this very, very sort of intimate space for me to record in. The one thing that I brought in from outside was a friend of mine from Montreal, Jessica Moss, who plays violin, but in this very, very beautiful sort of ambient style through two giant amplifiers and stuff. And she has a very special thing that she does. So I brought her in to do a couple very specific things. But otherwise, this was actually very COVID friendly project.
There was only one time where I don't even remember what I don't know what it was about, but there was only one time where we were like, oh, I wish we were just in person to like, it was like the timing of a swell. I'm not even sure, but the whole process was really so seamless. Like, I'm so surprised how easy it was to talk on the phone and on Zoom about feeling in this way. I mean, there are parts of the process looking back that it's like, would that have been faster if we were in person to riff together? But it was so, we had a very truncated, as I'm sure most people do, just such a short post time that it was so great for all of us to even just like on a couple times where we're all stuck, to like take a pause and let's talk in a few hours, and we all go for a walk and have food and I don't know, just be people, and then come back together and talk about stuff. It was a little bit of a blessing in disguise. It was a lot of fun.
It does make you have to schedule the time and schedule extra time to spend time together, even if it's just virtual. And I've done dozens of projects where the edit room was 3 blocks away and I was never in the room with the directors. So, this is not unusual, though I will say that it would have been great to sit in the room together, and because we spent a lot of time saying, oh, well, the metal sound is coming in too early. I was like, well, I'll make it later. And they're like, it's still coming in too early.
Metal sound.
It's coming in too late. I was like, all right.
And so your film is premiering at Sundance this year. I wanted to ask each of you, what has been your kind of past Sundance experience, if you've had any, and also how do you feel that things being virtual this year either helps or hinders the films that are premiering and basically part of the festival?
Well, Todd is the only one of us that has had a movie at Sundance, so he should definitely answer this first.
Okay. Well, I mean, my Sundance, my world with Sundance goes actually back to the Composers Lab. In 2008, I was part of the Sundance Composers Lab, and from that year, which was just a totally formative experience for me, from that year on, I guess I had at least one movie at Sundance every year. That was 2008, or so starting in 2009, I've been there every year, it's you spend a lot of time running around on shuttles and waiting in line for movies. So I kind of feel like maybe this one people will be able to just go movie to movie to movie, and that will be a benefit to it. It's also a lot of the only time that you get to actually see people that you're working with and talking with through the year. So I'll really miss that about not being able to do that. And it's exciting to be in a room watching the premiere of your movie. And so that's going to be kind of more abstract this time. But hopefully we will be in a room at some point watching this movie with lots of people.
Yeah.
I also think too, just to build on that, it's so much more accessible this year to so many different kinds of people. And that's really exciting. I think especially making a movie about teenage girls there's not a huge teenage audience at a Park City Sundance, I think for obvious reasons, school, etc. But we're really hoping that we can kind of reach a larger teenage audience with a virtual premiere, which is exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Parker and Isabel, I hope you get to experience Sundance maybe when we aren't in the middle of a global pandemic, because it is such a fun, unique experience, I feel. And I'm sure we'll be seeing more from you though.
Definitely.
And one last question for all three of you. And I guess we'll start with Parker, Isabel, and then go to Todd. For audiences that are going to be experiencing Cusp for the first time, watching it virtually, what is the one thing you want them to know going into it? Or is there something you want them to keep an ear out for? What are your words for the audience?
I guess I would say that going into it, there may be more similarities to your own experience than you might expect. Because I think not a lot of people grew up in rural Texas. Neither of us grew up in rural Texas, but there's definitely a lot to be found in their experience that I think people will relate to in their own teenage years.
I second that. I mean, no, I don't really think you need to know anything or be thinking about anything going into the film. Hopefully it speaks for itself, and keep an ear out for Todd's music, especially in the credits. I effing love the music over the credits. I mean, I love it over the course of the whole film too. But no, I hope people go in with open eyes and ears and enjoy the experience.
I mean, I think in a lot of ways that I'm one of the first audiences for the movie. These guys have been working on the movie in this room and in all the rooms with the characters for years, right before I was part of it. And so I feel like that idea that you can find yourself in this movie definitely feels very true to me. I actually was not a teenage girl in Texas ever. And I really sort of felt connected to this world through the filmmaking. And so I feel like that's a really a beautiful thing to offer audiences. So that's what you should know.
Well, thank you all for taking the time to speak with me today. Todd, I love the score. I can't wait for more people to hear it. And Parker and Isabel, the movie's great. I can't wait to see what people think, and just wanted to thank you again for taking the time. Once again, I'm Andrew Kropp with White Bear PR. Thanks for joining us today, and if you enjoyed this panel, please check out more events from Film Music House on the Sundance Film Festival website.